This is Intentional Aging for November 2023, and today Petra Reininger is here to give us an overview of the services and assistance provided by the Olympic Area Agency on Aging, or more easily referred to as O3A. Petra works at O3A Sequim office, which is very near where the library will be living during our renovation and expansion next year. So thank you, Petra, for joining us today, and welcome to Intentional Aging.
Thank you so much for including me. I, at one time, was a participant in this program before I rejoined O3A. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to plan aging so that we age well, and appreciate being invited by the library and Colleen to participate in this program to share what O3A can do to help your aging process improve. We're kind of the best kept secret in the county. And it's not until people have emergencies that they learn about our services. And hopefully by sharing what we offer today to you, planning and having that knowledge ahead of time will help you in that process, either for yourself or someone else that you witness or a neighbor who needs help, that you can share with them about our resources. Some of the things that contribute to why we are not as well known as we could be has to do with our cultural and social norms, the belief systems about health. A lot of us don't like to admit that we're getting older. And the idea that we need to depend on someone else is a scary thought. And what I hope that by our conversation today is reversing the norm or the belief system that a person's wants to leave an inheritance as their legacy, and rather to leave a model of intentional aging or aging well as their legacy, because that is a generational gift. And for anybody who's involved in that circle of support and caring for someone, it is such a relief when someone does plan for the inevitability. 70% of older people at some point are going to need some form of care. And I think another misnomer or belief system is people think long-term care means skilled nursing facility. And that is such a scary thought. It is a lot more than that. So that is our intent today, is to provide you with information that gives you a sense of hope, and information also quells a lot of those fears that people have, not only of their belief system, but not knowing what's available and how to access care when they need it. So I'm going to start our presentation and see how we're going to do this. I'm sorry that my camera is not working properly today, so you will only be hearing my voice. And hopefully I can be animated enough for you to catch on, because I did have some props to share. So the Area Agency on Aging was created by the Older Americans Act in the 1980s. And the intention was that there would be a resource for people 60 and over disabled in every county of the United States. So there are currently 616 AAAs, which represents Area Agency on Aging. You see the 3 A's there. And within the state of Washington, there are 13. If someone is out of our county and is looking for care, all they need to do is go to the website shown on the screen, eldercare.acl.gov. You can enter the city and state, and it will pop up what is the closest AAA that they can access, where they can learn about resources to help them. So that is a really good resource to keep track of. If you are moving to another area, or you have family in other areas that are looking for help, they don't know where to begin, this is a good resource to reference. Our agency was founded in '76 and we service 4 counties. We have 7 offices. And our funding comes primarily from the Older Americans Act, government funds, state funds, private donations. And we are mandated by the state of Washington to provide services and support to older adults. Our services will be in greater need as we age. They're expecting in the next 20 years that the population of 60 and over is going to double. In fact, Jefferson County is the oldest county average age in the state of Washington and number 6 in the nation. Fallon County is not that far behind. So our mission as an agency is to help elders maintain their dignity, health, and independence in their homes through home and community services. We really want to see people age at home, and that's what most people want to do. They just don't necessarily know how. So as I go through the slides, I want to share with you home and community services. That's our focus. And in between, between the community service and home services, I'll allow for some questions, or you can pop up your hand and we'll address them as they come up, because I'm sure you have some good thoughts and nobody wants to hold on to them and not hear what's going on. Maybe everybody else will have the same question. Some of the things that we offer as a community service, I'm going to give you a brief overview and then I'll go into each one of them. So we're under community services, we have information assistance, which I'm the primary contact. Then we have our legal clinics. We have SHEBA, which stands for State Health Insurance Benefit Advisors. And right now is open enrollment, so many of you who are 65 and over are aware of the opportunity to review your health insurance plans once a year. And the other community service we have is long-term care ombuds program. That is for anybody who is in a facility outside the hospital who wants an advocate. If there are any issues that come up while you're doing that stay, there is somebody who's an advocate for the resident. We'll get more into that. Some of the other programs we do finance, the senior nutrition programs. It was Mom's Meals on Wheels at OCAP. That has been discontinued. It is now Mom's Meals. Explain more about that. We also do the congregate meals that were going on at the senior center at Port Angeles. We are involved with financing volunteer services that provide senior transportation. We also have a minor home repair finance program. We also do health and wellness classes. Some of our new pilot programs, caring transitions, mobile assistance van. We have a home share program and LAQ. I'll go into each of these specifically. Another part of our home services, just to give you a quick overview of what home services involves. We have a focus on the family caregiver, and that's under the Family Caregiver Support Program. We have a program called Relatives as Parents, and then we have a modified in-home care service called Tailored Support for Older Adults, or the Medicare Alternative Program. And then in addition to home services for supporting the family caregiver, we also have long-term care services for in-home care, and the 3 of them are Medicaid, which is COPES or Community First program. And with that, we also have nursing services and health home, which is kind of like a health coach for those that have multiple chronic conditions to help them stay out of the hospital. And starting in 2026, we will be managing the Washington Cares Fund, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. So that kind of gives you an umbrella of what O3A does. We have a community services and home services. And the community services are, regardless of whether you're trying to access public benefits or you just need referrals to services that are not funded by the state, but you are in need of those access, we do give referrals for that. A big part of our job is doing that. What is information and assistance? Well, typically someone will call me, and right now I'm seeing a lot of people wanting to know how they can improve their financial situation by accessing more benefits, because as rents have been escalating, a lot of seniors on limited income, or their income is not keeping up with the cost of their mortgage or their rent or space rent, they're coming to me and asking me for where can I improve my finances. So it might be that I'm introducing them to how they can get discounts on their property tax. It might be about how they can take advantage of the low income home energy assistance program and getting a grant for their utility bills. It's about telling them about transportation options, talk about the food options as far as using the food banks, or during the summer months, we sponsor the senior nutrition program. It could also be that they would like to have home delivered meals as another way to supplement their nutrition. So we look at nutrition, we look at utilities. People can qualify for SNAP, which is Supplemental Nutrition Program, Assistance Program, which or not formally known as food stamps. Those are three ways in which people supplement their nutrition. And then that is also a gate opener to being able to get a free phone or a discount on their internet. So those are things that we do to help people to deal with improving their finances. Another one you may have heard a lot right now on the radio and TV is, oh, you could save $2,000 on your Medicare expenses. Well, that's called the Medicare Savings Plan. And for people with certain income thresholds, they can qualify to save on their monthly premiums. That's another source where people are looking to improve their finances. So that's part of INA, Information Assistance, INA for short. Another reason people come in is they may call and say, oh, my neighbor is not doing so well, and I think she could benefit for some help. Or it might be a grandchild calls up and says, I've gone to see grandma and she's not doing well, and I think she really needs some in-home services. Or it could be my grandpa fell, he's in the hospital, and we've got to arrange for care because I'm only here visiting and I'm going to be leaving in a couple weeks. And typically during the holidays, I get a lot of those calls because people haven't seen their relatives in a while, and they all of a sudden realize, oh, someone has declined and they need some help and we can't do it. So part of it is kind of helping people create a plan. And I usually start first by talking to them about our legal services. We have a legal advice clinic. It's available to people 60 and over. It's free, 30-minute advice with a practicing attorney. It's by appointment only, and you call our office to set up an appointment. And right now we are running, starting filling up January. Some of the topics are estate planning. Big part of our legal clinics are estate planning, which would be your power of attorneys, your wills, living will. People also have questions about Medicaid, how they can qualify for Medicaid if they have assets. And you need to start having that conversation probably 5 years before you consider Medicaid as possible your long-term care strategy. People also want to talk about consolidating debt, especially nowadays, and landlord-tenant issues. So that's a big part of our INA is the legal advice clinic. And that's probably one of the first things when someone comes in and asks me about planning for their grandparent or their spouse or some family member that is showing signs of decline. Do you have your power of attorney? And a lot of times people don't. And sometimes it might be that they don't know who to ask, or they don't understand what you're asking of a person. It's really important to ask the person you're wanting to be as your agent so they understand what their responsibilities are. And especially if someone has any form of dementia or cognitive impairment in their family history, it's really important to get this done before you start showing signs, because not everybody from bankers on understand dementia. As soon as you start throwing that word out, it's like they don't want to deal with you, you know, so it's good to have this conversation before, if they're, especially if it's in your family history. The other part of information in this assistance is SHIVA, State Health Insurance Benefit Advisors. And we have a big team of volunteers that are trained and certified by the state. They're not selling product. They provide free and unbiased help on how to navigate Medicare or any related insurance such as Medicare Advantage plans or Medigap plans. And they are working under the Office of the Insurance Commissioner. We sponsor them. All of our counselors are background checked and they're certified. They receive ongoing training and they abide by the HIPAA privacy rules, so they can't discuss any of your health insurance issues outside with you, only with you. Our clinics are a first come, first served basis. They're one-on-one. And right now is open enrollment between October 15th and December 7th. You can go into one of our clinics and talk with one if you want to change your prescription plan. They ask that you bring your list of your prescription drugs and the dosage. They'll enter it into the computer, and then they'll show you what plans offer, what their monthly premium is, what your co-pays will be. They'll list all the pharmacies that you regularly attend, and they'll show you what the copay is per pharmacy. So it's a great service. And you know, 1 year you may not need any meds. The next year, all of a sudden you have an expensive drug. It is really good to review every year what your plans are. Again, we talked, there's the Medicare Savings Plan. They will determine if you're eligible to receive it. There are 3 tiers in this program. Medicare Savings, if you're very low income, you can save on the deductible, the monthly premium, and your copay. So basically anything that Medicare approves is 100% for you. Then if you're a higher income level, you may save just on the monthly premiums, but again, that can pay for you affording a nicer copay, a supplemental insurance. And then there's the 3rd tier where they can at least give you a savings on your prescription drug monthly premium. If you're new to Medicare, Medicare starts at 65. You have 3 months prior, the month that you are turning 65, and 3 months after to enroll in Medicare. If you are new to the area and you have a change in your plan, you have 60 days once you change from your area into our county. So anytime you're changing counties, different plans, you have 60 days to review your plans. Another is if you are working and then you retire, then 60 days after that date, you also have that much time to get onto Medicare without penalties. And so if you are new to Medicare, you definitely want to talk to one of our counselors to learn about it. It's about an hour meeting, but they are willing to work with you to make sure you understand what's going on. Any questions on the SHIVA program? Just kind of a quick overview on that. If you have more questions about Medicare itself, definitely give our SHIVA line a call. That phone number, if you do want to talk to a SHIVA counselor, is 360-417-8555. Or you can go to one of our clinics. And they are year-round. Right now, they just have them for longer time periods because it's open enrollment. Another important program under the community service is the Long-Term Care Ombudsman. And they are the advocates for residents at long-term care. So that would be adult family homes, assisted living facilities, memory care, and skilled nursing facilities. So there's one person assigned to each facility. And this person is trained by the state, that's Department of Commerce, and we sponsor the program. They're all background checked. They receive ongoing training. They very protective of any records. And if you have any issues with the facility, the ombudsman will speak on your behalf. And a lot of the facilities do not like being reported to the state. It does help keep them on their toes. The intention of the long-term care ombudsman is to educate the facilities on resident rights and good care practices. So they are building rapport with the facilities. They also go visit residents to make sure residents are doing all right. It's just and they also do informational workshops to facilities and residents, and there's a big lobbying effort also. Right now, they're working on improving the ratio of care to residents. So there's always ongoing efforts with the skilled nursing home industry to make sure that residents are receiving the proper care they need. Again, one of the other community service programs that we do is senior nutrition programs. We recently made a change, and the home delivered meals is now a program called Mom's Meals out of the Midwest. It's a twice a month delivery of frozen meals. There's one meal a day, so they'll get 14 meals every 2 weeks. And it's just a matter of signing up with our agency for people who are no longer cooking for themselves. They are forgetting to eat, things like that. So it's intended to make sure people get some type of nutrition every day. During the summer months, we do a $40 coupon card for the farmer's market for fresh produce, vegetables, fruits, honey, and herbs. And the farmer's market will match it, so it ends up being an $80 card. That's one that we also sponsor. And then there are congregate meals. That program right now is in limbo because Olympic Community Action Programs was coordinating that, and that's now in process of being changed. I mentioned earlier about transportation. That's a big issue in the rural area, and as seniors, they limit themselves, by self-choice, but when they're not, or the doctor says you should stop driving, then transportation becomes a big issue out here. So we do helps finance the volunteer services, which is the main volunteer program for driving people one-on-one to their doctor appointments or essential shopping. There are other organizations also that we're not involved with, but that's the main one we are involved with. The minor home repair finance program, that is, so we've got calls from people from either they've blown a gasket in their car and their car no longer works, and we help them finance that, or someone's water heater is busted in their RV or their mobile home, and it's created extensive damage. So sometimes we will get involved in helping that, and we team up with other agencies if it's a huge bill. But it is an opportunity. Last year we had somebody who had a tree, didn't fall on the house, but it was leaning really bad after one of those bad windstorms, and we paid to have somebody cut an arbor person who was an expert in being able to fall trees, and he landed it perfect between the road and the house, and it spared her probably $25,000 of damage on her roof line. So those are the type of things that we will assist with. We do ask people provide us with quotes. We don't write blank checks. So we want to learn a little bit more about it. And we do ask that people do their part in getting quotes and asking other agencies too. But there is a fund there to help people with minor repairs. The health and wellness classes, you may have seen in the past, there's a bingo exercise class that's on Zoom. And then the SAIL program was also another exercise class to help fall prevention. They're usually posted on our website, and people will submit a contract to our agency and we finance it. And then you'll see on our websites whenever there's a class available, either in person or on Zoom. Caring Transitions is a new program, and that is a program to help people who have been hospitalized and needs to know what services are available to be able to transition home and stay out of the hospital. That's in a pilot program. It's a coordinated effort between the hospital and our agency to be able to meet with someone as they're getting discharged to learn about what services are available in the area. The mobile assistance van is a program that's going around in the frontier areas of our county, which would be Forks West or more in the tribal areas. We do a lot in Pacific County, and it's providing, bringing food to where people are, and also support and helping people access public benefits. It's been a great success. I think we've serviced over 1,000 people in the pilot program that they've done. The O3A Home Share is also a new pilot program. We partnered with Silver Nest, which is a kind of like a, you know, we don't really want to compare it to eHarmony, but it's kind of like a dating service type, but it's with housing. So we have homeowners who would like to rent out a room, and we have people who are looking to rent a room. And Silver Nest does a background check on both the homeowner and the renter. And so then it's a closed loop. So you have to register and pay a monthly fee to get into this service. But if you go through our link, we pay that service for anyone that's over 60. So anybody who has a home and they want to rent out a room, then they would post photos of it. They would post what their requirements are, what they want to charge. And then the service provides the background check on the person. And then the person who's renting also puts a profile up. And so hopefully the two match. So we're not involved in matching. We're just hosting through Silver Nest, and we're helping aid by paying for the fees involved with that. LEQ is also another pilot program, and this is like series, except it's tailored for the senior. And I put a link there that you can watch if you want, about using artificial intelligence and robotic response for seniors who live alone. Because one of the have you been following trends? More and more articles are being published about loneliness contributing to the decline in the mental acuity as we age. And LEQ follows your cues in might tell you corny jokes, might tell you the weather, you ask it what it wants, or ask questions, it responds to you. So it's and they're learning that people do personalize AI, even though it is a robot, the longer they're working with it. So it's an interesting pilot test and has received really good response. So hopefully we'll be able to expand it in more counties. But if you watch the link to this program, you'll see an interview with someone in Pacific County who participated in this program. So before I get into the home services, are there any questions about what INA involves, or community services, any of the ones that I've shown? So again, when someone comes to me and asks about how do I help my grandma, or how do I help my spouse? A big part of what I do is I start out with the legal services and making sure people have their power of attorneys done and their wills. And they need to be communicated to their doctor and the hospital system. And the next thing I go into is I talk to them about their options with home care services. How many of you are caregivers or have been caregivers? Show of hands. So you can probably relate to this quote. There are only 4 kinds of people in this world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregiving. This is a quote from Rosalind Carter, and this kind of came out of her focus with dealing with the mental health in the 80s, because caregivers are involved not only with the elderly, but also with those who have disabilities. And it's very true. And so it's good to be familiar with what the resources are available if you fall into one of those 4 categories. In 2021, there are 820,000 family caregivers. They represent 770 million hours of unpaid care, valued at 16.8 billion. That's just in the state of Washington. Nearly half of those surveyed, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a slide. In 2022, our surveyed Washingtonians over 45 and found 67% were providing care for an adult relative or friend or had done so in the past. 3/4 of them were employed while providing care. Imagine how taxed that person is feeling. 48% said being a caregiver had an impact on their finances, and 67% felt emotionally stressed by the caregiving responsibilities. So one of the first areas our agency wants to address is helping that family caregiver. And so that family caregivers are eligible for respite care trainings or support groups. And why is it important for respite care? For mental health. It's really important to have a sense of an identity separate for being a primary caregiver to a loved one. Any of you who have been in that role know how there's a lot of sacrifice of time and role, and you become their life. And so we see that it's really important that family caregivers receive a break, because a refreshed and rested caregiver is a better caregiver. And I find this a lot. A lot of people don't want, especially married couples who've been together for a long time, they finish each other's sentences, they fill in for the other person. They don't realize how much they're compensating for that person, and the care receiver is counting on that, and they don't even recognize it. And so it's not until someone has health issues. A lot of times a caregiver ends up with health issues and not aware of how much it's taxing their bodies until something gives up. And we don't want to get to that point. And it's something that one of the questions I ask people, if you're a caregiver, went on vacation, would you be able to do any of this yourself? And many times the answer is no. But in a family, a lot of times there's the expectation that family members will fill in the gap, not realizing how much it's taking from that person to do that. And it is in a way to deny a need for care when you have family that's doing this, because it's part of the unspoken pact. What we offer is what's called the Family Care Support Program. And this is a program that's financed by the state, and the client is the caregiver, not the care receiver. So anyone 18 and over who is an unpaid family caregiver can qualify for this program. And it's based on family situations, income only. It's on a sliding scale. It's designed to give the caregiver a break, so they can qualify for up to 32 hours of respite care per month, which people can take as a 3-day weekend to get out of town, or they can break it up so that 1 day a week they get a break. And it is provided by a caregiver from an approved in-home care agency. There's also where they can provide medical supplies such as disposable adult underwear, other needs. They have support groups. They can also be forwarded to adult daycare programs like Encore, which is a wonderful program in Port Angeles for people with memory impairment. That gives a break for the caregiver for between 4 and 6 hours a day for the days that they participate. Another program we don't think of often and is not that well known, it's known as the Relatives as Parents or Kinship Program. And it's for adults who are raising a grandchild or a child that they're related to, but they're not the biological parent. And as long as the biological parent is not living in the same household, then that adult is eligible to receive some monies, financial assistance. A lot of times it's toward basic needs such as a bed. It might be a child is participating in band, and this is a way to finance that band membership, or it could be for team sports. It may be basic needs as household cleaning products or clothing for school. So it's a one-time financial aid per child, and is to just provide some support for that grandparent or other biological parent, biological family member who's caring for a child under 18. In the in-home care program, this is for where you would like to get a caregiver. So what are signs of someone needing help? And this would be within your own family, yourself, or your neighbor, or someone that you care about. Signs that reflect why someone would need a caregiver. Physical, changing eating habits, balance problems, very common. Poor hygiene, unexplained bumps and bruises. Home environment, excessive clutter, key one there. A lot of times that's where people approach the hoarding mentality, or it's very unkept. You know, there are odors that urine stains or pet stains that haven't been taken care of. Emotional, lack of motivation is a big one that we see. Mood swings, not wanting any help, but obviously needing, showing neglect. And cognitive, repetitive. So asking you the same question 5 minutes well, I shouldn't say 5 every minute, 20 times. Mismanaged medication, skipping meds, unpaid bills is another real detector of someone needing assistance. A big misnomer. People think that Medicare pays for long-term care. It does not. Medicare is a health insurance, not a long-term care insurance. So Medicare is for intensive, rehabilitative, coordinated care. That is, you say you have an accident, you're admitted to the hospital, you're transferred to rehab for physical therapy, or you're transferred home for home health. That's where Medicare covers that expense. As long as the doctor is ordering it and it's medically necessary, Medicare will cover it. The other care that Medicare covers is hospice care. And they are both temporary services that need prior doctor approval and renewal based on your progress or how you what your situation is when it comes to hospice. Medicare does not cover long-term care in-home or in the facility. So long-term care is what we often call as custodial or convalescent care. So how do people pay for it? They don't have Medicare. Again, erase Medicare. Medicare is not associated with long-term care. They either privately pay for it, they have private long-term care insurance, they use Medicaid long-term care, so it's separate from Medicaid health insurance, not Medicaid health insurance, Medicaid long-term care insurance, or the veterans benefits. Veterans have aid and attendance or homebound. So usually people use a combination of these 4 to be able to have in-home care services, to be able to stay in the home. Probably 11% of the population has long-term care insurance. So the rest are relying on other funds. So again, 70% of us that are over 65 eventually are going to need some type of care to be able to stay in the home. So this is where it becomes important to start thinking about how you're going to take care of this. If you're relying on the state to be the financial arm for your long-term care, there are financial and functional eligibility requirements. It takes up to 60 plus days to process for approval, and it is not 911. I get a lot of calls where someone gets discharged from the hospital and they say, I need in-home care service and I need it tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. The only way you can get it tomorrow is if you're willing to pay for it privately. Now, a really good resource to learn about all the details about what state services are is to go to WashingtonLawHelp.org, because the financial eligibility requirements change, like health insurance, every quarter almost. So this is a really good resource here, Washington Law Help, to check on learning more about it. And I a lot of times help people understand it. It's a layman's version of interpreting Washington state law. If you've ever read the Washington law, it's like it's a link on link on link, and you go down a rabbit hole. It's really hard to understand. So Washington Law Help really puts it in layman terms as best as possible. So within our agency, they're relying on state assistance. In-home care programs, we have the MAPT SOA program, which is non-Medicaid, and then we have the COPES CFC Medicaid long-term care. So those are the two in-home care programs that provide a caregiver to assist someone in their home. We mentioned two eligibility requirements. One is a functional eligibility, and the other is financial. The functional is looking at activities for daily living. And so a person needs assistance with two or more of these skills. And they're looking at, does someone just need supervision? Do they need occasional assistance? Do they need daily assistance? And do they need the activity to be done for them completely? So someone who's bedbound would not be able to get up to go to the bathroom by themselves. That's that. Someone who has dementia probably could take a shower, but they're afraid of falling, and so they need supervision. So that's kind of the difference. These are some of the activities that are considered daily living skills. They're looking primarily for balance, really want to minimize the person's chances of falling, because that's usually the downfall for most people, is falling and fracturing their hip or pelvic area. So balance is one thing they look at. Transferring, the bathroom is your hazard zone. So transferring on and off the toilet, toileting, dressing, bathing, you can see there's quite a few things that they look at. So I've listed here the difference between the two programs. The main thing is for the tailored support, it's kind of a light version of in-home care services. There's 20 hours a month, but there's some things on there. It's not as restrictive financially to get on the program. And for some people, that's all they need, is someone to come in half a day a week or a couple hours a day. And that's enough to make them feel independent and able to thrive. This program also provides the mom's meals and the personal emergency response button, which is the button that you hit if you fall and can't get up, and it alerts people in your family and the EMTs that they need to come over and up. You don't respond. And that's part of that program. And you can see the financial requirements. They don't count the house, they don't count the car. But again, you have to be 55 and over. The COPES program is much more extensive in their financial review. The hours can go from 20 hours to 400 hours. Someone who gets 400 hours is typically bedbound. 400 hours is about 13 hours a day. And they have different financial restrictions. Probably the one that gets people the most is the $2,000 in resources. That's why most people end up on the tailored support program. There are two things that people really run into issues with. One is the state recovery. And that is when someone passes away, the state has the right to recover the money they've spent on your care. Doesn't mean they're going to kick you out of your house. If someone is married, they wait until after the spouse has passed away before they do a lien on the estate. Doesn't mean they're forcing you out, but they are asking you to sell them. The other thing is the 5-year look back, and that's why people end up having to do planning. If Medicaid is going to be your long-term care strategy, then you need to pay attention to the 5-year look back rule. The state wants you to spend your resources before they get involved. If you want to protect your inheritance for your children, then you need to talk with either an attorney and or a financial planner with your finances so they can be protected and be qualified for Medicaid. So Medicaid has certain things. Usually they want you to invest in a way that it's irrevocable and that the state can be added as a beneficiary. But the 5-year look back, it means you're planning for it as a strategy. And that's where a lot of people get in trouble, is they don't look at this until they have a crisis. And then you have an issue, especially if you have rental properties or anything like that. And so it's something to look at now while you're healthy, and review with an attorney or a financial investor to make sure you have your assets addressed in a certain way to be able to qualify. Again, that's if you're looking at Medicaid as your long-term care strategy. The tailored support program, usually the financial application starts with a case manager can get involved right away with setting you up for Meals on Wheels, our Mom's Meals right now, and the personal emergency response button. And then the financial application needs to be completed within 60 days. So you are entitled to try to get the services for 60 days. And then if you financially qualify, it continues. If it doesn't, then it stops, no loss. The COPES program, because of the type of finances involved, they do the financial application first, and that's done with the Department of Social and Health Services. And then a social worker comes afterwards to assess a person in their home to determine the number of hours they qualify. Once those two parts are done, you're assigned a case manager. The types of caregivers are involved in these two programs. One is it can be through an agency. There are 4 agencies in our area that accept Medicaid clients in addition to private pay. And that both the COPES and the Tailored Support for Adults program, the Family Care Support program, veterans programs all use the in-home care agency caregiver. The COPES program also allows the state will pay to have an individual be a caregiver. And you've probably heard radio ads or seen prints about this. And that means it can be anybody but the spouse that the state will pay to have that person be your caregiver. That person has to be background checked and has to pass certain training before they are eligible to be certified and paid for by Medicaid to be the caregiver of the family. There is more flexibility in having an individual provider. It does get around the shortage sometimes. And the third type of caregiver is someone who is in business for themselves to be a caregiver. A lot of retired nurses have a new career as a private pay caregiver. There are 2 main websites that you can go to locate a private pay caregiver. One's care.com. The other is CareLinks, CareLinx.com. And there you will see people posting their resume. They'll do their credentials, their background, their hourly rate, what they will or will not do, and then people post reviews of how their services have been. So I've had several clients utilize that service to find a private pay caregiver. What does a caregiver do? If they're paid by the state, there is a contract between the caregiver and the caregiver agency and DSHS. It tells what they can and can't do, but it would involve personal care. That's the first focus. So that's hygiene, bathing, showering, dressing, those type of things. They can do essential grocery shopping. They can go pick up the person's prescriptions. They can take them to the doctor's appointment. They do meal preparation, cooking, and feeding. Light housekeeping. A lot of people think that involves deep housekeeping, cutting wood and outdoor work. No, it's like doing the dishes, making your bed, doing the laundry, dusting, vacuuming, that type of thing. And companionship and anything else that's, if someone has physical therapy, but they're not the type to do it unless someone prods them, the caregiver can be assigned to coach and encourage, go out with you on walks so you get your physical therapy. On the COPES program, we also do have nurses on staff that do help clients that have medically unstable conditions. And we also have a program called Help Homes, where the care coordinator, these are separate from the case manager, they're like a coach, and they will work with people to make sure they are complicit with doctor instructions to reduce their admittance to the hospital. So usually Medicaid identifies who they want to have a coach. So some of the issues right now, we do have a shortage of caregivers. So there are wait lists. Sometimes not all the hours are served on COPES. And the other hurdle is a lot of people are reluctant to admit they need help for whatever reasons. And usually afterwards, they're very happy they have. Costs. Right now, a private agency averages $40 plus an hour, 40 to 45. You're hiring someone privately, it's about $25 an hour. But you do the interviewing, the background check, and the bookkeeping in addition to developing your plan of how we want to do that. So there is a savings, but you are bearing more of the administrative and other duties when you privately hire someone. With the state, the average person has 80 hours per month of caregiving. So that runs about $2,000 to $3,600 a month. If you are privately hiring someone, that can run you a little bit more. That gives you an idea of what this expense is. So it can run up to, $36,000 a year if you're privately doing this. That's why people do look at Medicaid as a strategy to cover their in-home care services. If you're going into a facility, the average in a facility right now is between $35,000 and $14,000 a month. So a facility would be either adult family home, assisted living, or memory care. And that cost is for room, board, and care. And the variable is care. So typically an facility, if you're going to consider going into a facility, they're not going to quote you over the phone. They want to interview you to find out if they can meet your needs. And if someone needs minimal care, like most of the times they will include medical management, medication management as part of their basic cost. But they can have a tier program. Sometimes there's only 3 tiers. So like St. Andrew's Place in Port Angeles is a nonprofit assisted living. They have 3 tiers. You go to Dungeness Court Memory Care, which is a private facility in Swim, they have 10 tiers. And so each tier provides an escalation in the cost. And that's where you have to be careful. So the assisted living family home starts at $35,000 to $7,000. Memory care average about $7,000 to $14,000. Skilled nursing facility is $11,000 to $25,000 a month. So it's very expensive. It's very shocking. I know when I first started this, it was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen these numbers before. I never made this kind of money before. So, it is shocking, and that's why I bring this up, because it requires some planning on how you want to deal with this. And most people do not want to go into a facility. And that's why the in-home care, if you can find a way to stay in the home, most people prefer it. They want to be around their comfort and familiar things, connect with people. And so staying in the home is the desirable way. That's what the state wants you to do also. It's less expensive for both parties, and people thrive better in their home. But there are inevitability. Sometimes you do end up having to go into a facility, and maybe for safety reasons. It may be that the socialization, when you're in an assisted living facility, they have congregate meals, they do group activities, and people thrive in that environment, especially if they've been living alone and isolating. Going into assisted living or a facility is a better choice for them. Memory care maybe because the type of issues you're dealing with is just no longer possible to take care of that person at home. So, but that gives you an idea of what today the market prices are. So men are a 44% risk of needing a care in a facility, an average 2.2 years at 220,000. And women are at risk of at 72% of risk of needing care, an average 3.5 years. So that's where you hear all this talk about needing $500,000 to be in a facility. But again, Medicaid, only 11% of the population has long-term care insurance. People are developing means of doing this. 80% of people in facilities are on Medicaid. So you're not alone if that is your strategy. 80% of people are doing it. Again, encourage everybody to look at ways in which you can access a little help to make it possible to stay at home longer. So again, our agency helps people with being able to age at home safely and with dignity with different services. And it's a matter, I help people apply for these services. And so when you come in and you're wanting to get an idea of how to plan for this is kind of the process I go through with people in explaining from the legal that you need to prepare for and what your options are at each path, each step of the way. And you have choices to make. But by choosing to be part of this today and learning about your options, information is powerful and it helps you have hope and developing a plan. Are there any questions that people have about our programs? Well, we are at 609 West Washington Street in the JCPenney Shopping Center. We're going to be on the other bookend of where the library is going to be once it opens for the next 2 years. And this is our main number. And you can also go to our website. Again, I think the important thing is to look at one of the things that I feel about this program, the intentional aging, is it provides you with perspective on how to age well. And perspective, when your health gives out on you, which for a lot of us, we are going to face that, will help you look at this in a more positive way too. And one of the things I think I learned in the intentional aging program is the importance of your relationships. And I see that is really critical when people get to a place of needing care, because your relationships are what are going to make the difference in the type of care that we see. And it's an investment that we have to keep doing every day. Because a lot of people outlive other people move away. So it is a constant thing. So if there is anything I encourage most people to do is to really focus on the investment you make in your relationships with people. And also, it can be very worrisome to look at these numbers And I think if we focus on being in the present, which is another thing that intentional aging talks about, it helps you form an attitude, with a lot of grace. And I find the people I work with who have that type of attitude really thrive even when they need care in their home. So I call it the 4 P's. P for perspective, our attitude. P for presence, that we have a great attitude, look at being in the moment, having an attitude of grace. P for people, relationships, how important they are, and what a difference they make. And P in purpose. Part of purpose is looking at your intentional aging as your gift of legacy to your family, because becomes a generational thing when you're able to role model for your family members how to age gracefully and age with intention. Thank you for having us as a guest today. I really enjoyed being able to share with you this information. And again, if any of you have questions you didn't want to ask during this time, you can always reach out and call me or schedule a time and I'll review this more with you. Back to you.
Thank you, Petra. So much information. Get back to sharing my screen. Oh, I guess I'll have to wait. My screen had blacked out, so I thought you had stopped sharing, Petra. If you don't mind stopping your share,
Sure, I will.
then I will resume mine. Thank you. Well, that was fabulous. I thought I had a decent sense of all that O3A offers, but it turns out I only knew the tip of the iceberg. You do so much, so many important things over there. So thank you for sharing all of that with us, Petra. It was fabulous. And as usual, I have a little slide of additional resources. I have actually a whole bunch more than this, but I just focused on some of the items I found related to long-term care information. When I send out the email next week with links to things, you will also find links to titles in the library's collection related to aging in place and related to caregiver support. So there will be more to come, but it was more than I could fit on the screen, and it would have been too much for you to write it all down anyway. So you'll have more to look forward to next week when I send the big email. But here you'll see I have Olympic Area Agency on Aging's website. The National Institute on Aging offers information about long-term care, along with the U.S. Administration for Community Living and the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services. And then we have a few titles in the collection that are related to making plans to pay for long-term care, which obviously is very important. I've got a chat. I want to make sure someone didn't have a question. Okay, beautiful. And next month, Intentional Aging will meet on Tuesday, December the 19th at 11 a.m. Priya Jayadev will join us from Volunteer Hospice of Clallam County to talk about the palliative care and hospice care options here in Clallam County. So I hope you all will be able to join us for that. If you want a sneak peek at what Volunteer Hospice is up to, their website is there at the bottom of the slide, volunteerhospice.org. And then a little sneak peek for 2024. As we're nearing the end of this year, I want to give you a little heads up that in an effort to increase the opportunity for some in-person library programs for older adults, the frequency of intentional aging is going to shift from being monthly to being quarterly, but we are still going to meet on Zoom. We're still going to meet on the third Tuesday at 11, but instead of meeting each month, we will meet on the third Tuesday of February, May, August, and November. So that will start in 2024. We are still meeting next month, as I said. And to mark the new era, we're going to alter the name as well. And it's kind of fun because Petra said the new name of the program many times during her presentation. So that was pretty fun for me because intentional aging is going to become aging well. And I know change can be challenging, but it can also be exciting. So I look forward to settling into this new chapter with all of you, and we'll see how it works out. And if we don't think it works, we can make more changes for 2025. I always welcome your input because this program is here for you. We want to be providing what you are wanting. So feel free to share that with me via email or however else you like. But that is all for today's program. Thank you again to Petra for joining us. Thanks to all of you for taking an interest in living well as you age. And take care, everyone. And we will see you oh, that's a good point, Evelyn. We were trying to avoid December. And so we shifted. Evelyn made a remark in the chat that she prefers not to have August be one of our months because it's fair time. And that's a good point. We'll have to see if we can make some adjustments. So anyway, wishing you all a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you get to spend the day doing something that makes you happy, and we will see you all next month.
Thanks again.
Thanks for coming.